right, let's get into our first big story. The Independent National Electoral Commission has postponed the legislative rerun election in Akukutoro local government area of Rivers State in southern Nigeria due to violence.
INEC says armed thugs invaded the polling center and that the vote will be concluded later today. Results from Saturday's rerun elections have been released in just one senatorial district.
Now, the candidate of the All Progressives Congress for Rivers Southeast Senatorial District, Magnus Abe, was declared winner, beating Olaka Nwogu of the PDP. Now, Maurice Pronem, who is the candidate of the APC for Kana-Gokana Federal Constituency, was also declared winner. And meanwhile, some parts of the Rivers East Senatorial District reportedly witnessed some violence during the voting exercise.
Though the election went on smoothly in some polling units, it took the intervention of security personnel to curtail the activities of thugs and others. But there was this very worrisome trend of money-induced voting. Our correspondent Uche Okoro is here to tell us more about that.
Election in some parts of Port Harcourt City and Obiakpo local government areas took off on a good note with the early arrival of election materials. As the election continued, news of the process being disrupted in some polling units began to filter in. For instance, in Unit 11, Ward 12 of Obiakpo local government area, suspected thugs had attempted to invade the polling unit before heavily armed policemen on patrol intervened. The real intention of the young men remains unknown, as some of them were successfully taken into police custody.
Police came on time and adequately moved them away. Everywhere is peaceful now. You can see voting going on with the police forces here. No issue at all.
Some of the problem we envisage in some of these our polling units has to do with lack of control and lack of understanding from the agents. So they called us to order, the APC, Labour Party Independent and PDP. And we had a government to maintain peace.
Many other polling units experienced their own peculiar situation. While the process appeared smooth, political party agents openly engaged in influencing the decision of voters under the watchful eyes of security personnel. After casting their votes, those who complied with directives given to them by political party agents were paid different sums of money. These agents of the two major political parties pointed accusing fingers at each other for being responsible for this anti-democratic behavior.
We had challenges of people coming in to vote, and you see some of the APC agents pushing them apart, trying to lure them with money to vote for them. PDP happens to be the ruling party in Rivers State, and the people, they have the heart of the governor.
The PDP that have been trying to induce voters. And again, I can see that they came in numbers. They have so many agents carrying fake party agent cards. APC, as a party, have come up for a free and fair election, and that is what they stand for.
Despite the reports of violence, ballot box snatching and missing result sheets coming from many parts of Rivers State during the rerun elections, actual voting began rounding up in the early hours of the evening in units where the process was peaceful. Uche Okoro, TVC News, Port Harcourt.
All right, joining us now is the public affairs analyst, Kayode Salako. It's good to have you join us.
Yeah, good to be in the studio.
All right. Before we come to to discuss the issue proper, let's go on a break, and then we come back to dwell on this topic. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and we are discussing the election in Rivers State that was conducted on the 10th, and parts of them are still being expected to be conducted, so it's like an ongoing process. Some have been concluded due to some of the issues coming out from there. But in the studio now we have the National Coordinator, Change Agent of Nigeria Network, He's also a political analyst, Kayode Salako. It's good to have you join us right now.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Now, let me ask, the election in Rivers State has been postponed, repostponed, and rerun. Why is it a do-or-die affair? Why does it look like a do-or-die affair in Rivers State?
Well, to a Nigerian like me, I think the impression the people of Rivers State have been creating, putting out to the world, is that without three things, they cannot survive. The first is the oil, which they have always bragged about. It's all about their oil. The second is the politics. And the third is the cultism. Those are the three things they are letting the world know that those are the things about their society, their state. And that is why to conduct an election in such kind of a society, no doubt would always come out to be a do or die affair, or like a Boko Haram kind of a war, you know. So I think the political gladiators in that state should do well to change that impression. Politics shouldn't be about what the people of the state must continue to live on and depend on for survival. That is impression. And that is why to conduct an election in a society like Rivers State has always been about volatility, violence, killings, and all of that, because the impression is, oh, without politics, we cannot survive. Our society cannot exist. Oh, we are done for. That is why if this man does not win, if that person does not win, oh, Rivers State is in trouble. And that is the impression that someone like me has been getting.
Okay, but during the 2015 general election, you just mentioned Boko Haram. In the states where Boko Haram ravaged the parts of the country, election held and it was peaceful and it was successful. So what gave for that part of the divide and didn't give in this part?
Well, desperation to dominate politically has been the order of the day in Rivers State. The political gladiators are not allowing INEC to do its work. For example, the current governor of the state has been sounding like a man who has been appointed by his people to run his political party. He has been talking as if he is a spokesperson of his political party. He has been acting as if he is the chairman of the political party. The immediate past.
But the bulk of the blame has always been laid on the governor. In the past elections, I remember a couple of petitions were written against his person as the governor of the state, and he is the chief security officer of that particular state. So
Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State is not the only PDP governor in Nigeria. There are other PDP governors. I have been following how political events have unfolded in Rivers State. And I want to tell you that Wike has deliberately and desperately positioned himself as the almighty political warrior in Rivers State. There are other political gladiators in Rivers State who could be allowed to run the affairs of the political party. You see, what Governor Wike should realize is that he is presently not the man of the system in Nigeria.
Okay, when you say man of the system,
the man of the system is not the man of the system.
What does that mean?
If you are not the man of the system, then you shouldn't be sounding the way you have been sounding since he was sworn in as governor of the state.
You have not answered the question.
Explain
Who
to
the
us
man of the system is.
what does it mean to be man of the system?
The man of the system is a man that his party is in control at the federal level. Governor Wike's party is not in control at the federal level.
So, but what you have just said now, underpin what Wike has always said, and the accusation is always made, or the allegations is always made, that the Rivers elections will be swayed with federal might. And is that what you're saying now?
That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that if you are not a man of the system, then you should run your state to be in good time with that system, the way other PDP governors have been doing. I have not seen Governor Nyesom Wike as a man who is ready to run a non-partisan governance. There is a difference between partisan politics and partisan governance. You have run your politics, you have run your election, you have been declared the winner, you have been allowed to be sworn in, your people have appointed you.
He's been allowed he's been allowed, that's the word you use, he's been allowed. He's an elected governor. The word allowed.
He came in through a very He came in through a very controversial election. You see, you have been voted in, you have been allowed by your people, by your people's vote, to run their lives in that state. So, why don't you concentrate on governance? Why don't you leave the politics to the chairman of your political party? Why don't you leave the politics to the main people who have been appointed by the political party to run the affairs of the party?
But we have always known that the chief executive is always seen as the leader of the political party. In the case of the president, in the federal level, we see the president as the leader of the political party, the national leader of the political party. At the state level, we see the governor as the leader of the political party.
Is it Mr. President that is running APC right now? It is John. It is Oyegun that has been running it. Mr. President has been concentrating on running Nigeria. Why he has left the political aspect of it to the political gladiators in his party. He only comes in when he is invited or when it is necessary. And that is what I would have expected Governor Nyesom Wike to do. And let me tell you this. As I said, he should have realized that his party is not the party in power at the center. For that reason, he should have done enough to make sure that he runs a more progressive River State, a more acceptable River State, for the party at the center to see him as a friend of the system.
But in this case, the federal and the state government are two different governments, even though it's within the republic, as the case may be. But
in any case, it's called federalism, right?
It's federalism. The constitution gives absolute power within the confines of a state to the state, where the governor is supposed to run his state irrespective of what the federal government.
But has the constitution given the governor of the state the power to run INEC? Has the constitution given him the power to run his own political party the way has
INEC come out to say that they are being run by Nyesom Wike?
But why has Nyesom Wike always come out to confront the authority?
In all of this,
he has been confronting the police.
Yeah, but
he has been confronting INEC.
Yes, but in all of this, Kayode, to be fair, in all of this, the constitution is the guiding principle to governance in Nigeria.
Yes.
In all of the things Wike has done, has he contravened the specifications of the constitution by any means?
He might have not, but he has been talking. He keeps talking all the time. And when he talks, most of the things he says keep creating tension, keep daring the authority, keep creating the impression that, oh, there are some people somewhere who are after his office, who want to take over River State from him and all of that. And as I said earlier, I want you to notice, he is not the only PDP governor in Nigeria. Other PDP governors have been running their state peacefully, and that is what I want to advise him to learn. And for the Minister of Transport, that's the right Honorable Rotimi Amechi, he too should realize that he had done his own part in River State. He is now with the party in power. He should also allow the man that is in charge of the state to run it the way it should be. This political, worship they have unleashed on the state should stop. It is creating the impression, a bad impression, about River State to the outside world.
So are you saying this is basically a tussle between the governor and the Minister of Transport?
It has always been, except you don't live in Nigeria.
Okay.
It has always been, and I think by now the two of them should allow democracy, according to the definition, to take place, to outsway in River State. And what is democracy? Democracy is supposed to be the government of the people, by the people, and for the people, or for the people and by the people. Right. It is not the government of the politician, for the politicians, and by the politicians. So when the politicians feel they are the ones that must always be in charge of the democratic process,
we'll come back to
that is when
we'll come
there
back
will always
to
be a problem like this.
All right. And it's time to go out on TVC Entertainment, but viewers there can continue with TVC Breakfast on that's TVC Breakfast Nigeria on Concert Channel 190, DSTV 418.
You can also go on GoTV Channel 45 and ACTV 510. So let's go on a break now. We'll come back to dwell more on this topic we're discussing River State. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and on this segment, we're discussing the fallout of the Rivers rerun election, a parliamentary election that was conducted on the 10th, and there are still ongoing efforts in other parts of the state to make conclusions on some of the local governments. We have in the studio the national coordinator of the Change Agent of Nigeria Network, Kayode Salako. We've been talking about this, and Elton's Beniko will be having a correspondent from River State who monitored part of the election to also let us know, bring us to speed what is going on in River State. Now, Kayode, let me come to you on this. The issue, we heard of issues of ballot box snatching. We still heard of the death of a few persons during the election. Now, in all of this, how would you assess the credibility of All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and on this segment, we're discussing the fallout of the Rivers rerun election, a parliamentary election that was conducted on the 10th, and there are still ongoing efforts in other parts of the state to make conclusions on some of the local governments. We have in the studio the national coordinator of the Change Agent of Nigeria Network, Kayode Salako. We've been talking about this, and Elton's Beniko will be having a correspondent from River State who monitored part of the election to also let us know, bring us to speed what is going on in River State. Now, Kayode, let me come to you on this. The issue, we heard of issues of ballot box snatching. We still heard of the death of a few persons during the election. Now, in all of this, how would you assess the credibility of the outcome of the rerun election from the issues of some of the issues we have seen?
Well, the only way I can assess it is when INEC, that is the umpire, comes out to say the process has been allowed to run by the politicians, because the politicians have always been the problem. As far as I'm concerned, INEC has not always been the problem. It is the politicians. There has always been a process that INEC would always lay down. If the process is allowed to run, the electoral process is allowed to run the way it has been stipulated, laid down, there is nothing that can stop the credibility of the election. For example, in Ghana just concluded presidential election. The umpire there laid down a process for the elections to run, and the people of Ghana, in a civilized way, civilizedly allowed the process to run. And the umpire came out to say the incumbent president has been defeated, and there has not been any hullabaloo or any violence erupting after that. So we can only say an election is credible when the political gladiators, the politicians, don't make it a do or die process. If they allow INEC to do its work, conclude it, and come out with the result according to the laid down process. Now, when we continue to say elections are greeted by ballot snatching, violence, thugs going to invade polling centers and all of that, who are behind these thugs? And when these thugs are arrested, do they get punished?
Wait, let me interrupt and perhaps situate this particular area we are going into now. You've made mention several times that there are stipulated rules and regulations.
Yes.
And of course, one of that is the Electoral Act.
Yes.
It is clear, it is vivid, it is glaring for everyone to see, where the hate speech is not even allowed during campaign. There's stipulation for prosecution for that. There are fines for that. In cases of violence, there are stipulations against that. Now, who do you hold responsible when INEC doesn't follow that stipulation of the Electoral Act, when those laws are flouted? Who do you hold responsible? Is it the politicians or INEC, who is an umpire who is meant to regulate?
In an ideal democratic society, the judicial system is supposed to be in charge. The judicial system is supposed to govern, be the almighty tendencies that must be in control. But in Nigeria, in our own country, the reverse is the case. In a society, in a democratic society, where the political system is controlling the judicial system, that is when we would always have this type of tendencies where people will flout the rule, the politicians will flout the rules, and the INEC will be afraid to come out to tell it to their faces and even get them arrested or punished or
so this is not peculiar to Rivers State, really,
is it? Not. It is a Nigerian thing. Until our democratic system gives the power to our judicial system to be in charge, to be in control, to regulate, to make sure that our laws are followed to the letter. In Nigeria here, we don't follow our laws. We only have them in the books. We don't follow them, especially the politicians. Anything that concerns the politicians in Nigeria is sacred. Even the judges don't even have the power over the political system, and that is why the authority would deploy about 22,000 security men, in different cadres to just a rerun election, and somebody will still have the guts to say he is a political thug.
Okay.
And you go and dare that.
This same argument now, does it dovetail to allegations of INEC being influenced to work for perhaps the system, according to you? There have been allegations that INEC has been twisted to work for the system, particularly in Rivers State. Is that the case now?
Politicians would always come out with such allegations. I don't believe most times what the politicians say, because in Nigeria, an average politician here is desperate. He wants to win. He wants to win power.
But you just recognize the system.
Is that what?
You recognize the system. So there must be something about the system. And perhaps that system can influence the decision of INEC.
And that is if you have your evidence. Even those that have been accusing INEC of some of these things have not actually come out with concrete evidence. And if you have such kind of allegation and evidence against the umpire, then you approach the judicial system to sort it out. But our judicial system is even subservient to the political system, and that is why a lot of things have been wrong in Nigeria. Let us have a democratic system where everybody can look up to the judicial system for equity, justice, and fairness.
But when it comes to let us have, like you said, let us have a democratic system that things work. Who is going to bring that democratic system? Is it going to come from America? Is it going to come from heaven? Or is it going to come from London? It has to be.
It is going to come from rebuilding our value system in Nigeria.
So and when you say, because sorry for interrupting you, but and when you say that politicians are part of the problem, who should now be building these institutions? Who should be responsible in ensuring that we have that kind of democratic system?
Now, let me tell you this. In an ideal democratic system or society, we need 5 ideals for us to have an ideal country. Number 1, we need the ideal laws. Ideal laws.
Which Nigeria has?
We have, but we don't implement them.
Okay. But at least there are laws.
Nigeria is still a lawless society. Number 2, we need ideal law enforcement agencies. That's number 2. Number 3, we need the ideal judicial system. You have the law, you have those that will implement it, enforce it. Then you must have those that must always interpret those laws for equity, justice, and fairness, for the running of the country, ideally. Then number 4, we need an ideal political system. That's number 4. Then number 5 now, we now need ideal Nigerians, the rest of us. We must be ideal in our orientation, in our mindset, in who we are as a people. We must be ideal. Then number 6.
I thought you said 5.
Yeah, I want to add one more.
Okay.
We need
5 plus 1.
We need ideal God. Okay. Nigeria is such a very religious country, but unfortunately, a lot of things are still wrong here. So once we can achieve or attain these 6 ideals that I've just enumerated,
5 plus 1,
we are going to have an ideal Nigeria. Now, out of these 6 ideals, who is supposed to be in control? Who is supposed to control the ideals? Supposed to be in charge of helping other ideals to be implemented? And that is the judiciary. The number 3 is the judicial system. The political system is not supposed to be controlling the judicial system. Every other ideals that I've enumerated should look up to the judicial system. That is why in the Western world, whatever the court says is the final. I can take you to court in the Western world for anything, and you can be sure that when you get there, you will get justice.
Okay.
Unlike Nigeria, where a politician will harm you or commit an offense, do something wrong to you, and when you want to challenge him, he will say, let us meet in court. Because he knows that when you get to that court, you can never get the justice. He will always have his day. And that is why our country.
The fear of DSS right now perhaps is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of DSS perhaps is the beginning of wisdom right now.
The fear of DSS is the beginning of wisdom. Yes, it shouldn't be only the DSS alone. It should be about our law enforcement agencies.
All right.
Being subservient to the final authority, the judicial system.
In the nutshell, we're picking the fact that there has to be an ideal Nigeria.
Yes.
real people and all of that. Kayode Salako, thank you very much for joining us.
5+1 recipe.
Yeah, 5+1 recipe. Thank you for joining us right now.
Thank you for having me in the studio.
All right.
And good morning.
Good morning.
We will take a break, and when we come back, we'll be going to Ghana for the election analysis there. Thank you for staying with us, and stay with us on TVC Breakfast.